The world has become louder, but the soul has gone quiet. You wake up each day surrounded by noise, flashing screens, fractured thoughts, deadlines chasing your breath. And yet, somewhere deep within you, there's a silence, a forgotten rhythm that used to guide you, a voice that once belonged to your soul. Jung called it the voice of the self, buried beneath the persona you've been forced to wear. Not chosen, not real, just constructed, just convenient. And every day you drift further from it, not because you're weak, but because the world taught you to be numb. This is Carl Jung's warning to the modern world, that we are not evolving. We are escaping inward, escaping the unbearable weight of authenticity, escaping the mirror that dares to reflect what we've ignored for too long. We have traded meaning for momentum, presence for performance, depth for dopamine. We scroll, consume, react, addicted not to life but to distraction. We no longer face ourselves. We curate fragments of who we wish we were and plaster them over the void where the real self once stood, naked, flawed, divine. And Jung saw it coming. He warned that modern man is in danger of losing all connection to the unconscious, to the ancient language of symbols, myths, dreams, the sacred architecture of the psyche. Without this connection, he said, we become hollow. Functional, yes. Productive, maybe. But soulless. Look around. People do not live. They perform life. They smile with anxious eyes. They speak in borrowed words. They chase goals that do not belong to them. Success, status, image. These are the gods of the modern world, but they do not feed the spirit. They starve it. Jung did not see progress as our enemy. He saw forgetfulness as the true disease, forgetting our roots, forgetting our shadow, forgetting that the human being is not a machine with tasks, but a mystery with depth. You were never meant to be a polished product. You were born to become, to wrestle with your darkness, to dance with your contradictions, to awaken, not by imitating perfection, but by embracing your fractured wholeness. Because until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. Your fears, your habits, your impulses, they are not random. They are signals. They are stories trying to surface, but the modern world is too loud to hear them. So you stay busy, you stay safe, you stay asleep. But something ancient inside you is still awake. A whisper, a pull, a restlessness that cannot be solved by success or silenced by scrolling. You feel it when you're alone, in the quiet, in the dark, when no one's watching. That discomfort, that longing, that ache in your chest when you realize the life you're living isn't fully yours. That's your soul begging you to come home. But coming home is not a retreat. It is a reckoning. Jung never said the path to wholeness would be comfortable. He said it would be necessary. To walk that path is to step into your shadow, the part of you that modern life taught you to hide, the anger you repressed, the envy you denied, the pain you laughed off, the parts you buried to be accepted, to be liked, to be seen as normal. But Jung knew what most don't. What you repress doesn't disappear. It grows teeth. It watches from the dark. It waits for moments of weakness. It shows up in your relationships, in your triggers, in your self-sabotage. The shadow you refuse to face becomes the saboteur you cannot escape. So Jung's warning is not about some apocalypse out there. It's about the war within. The war between the mask and the mirror, between who you pretend to be and who you really are. The longer you avoid this battle, the more it costs you. Authentic joy, real intimacy, inner peace. Because until you own your shadow, you will always be owned by it. But listen closely, because here is the paradox that most people miss. Your power does not lie in being perfect. It lies in being whole. And wholeness includes your rage, your fear, your sorrow, your contradictions. The ancient alchemists didn't seek gold in the heavens, they sought it in the dirt, in the darkness, in the prima materia, the raw, ugly matter of the soul. And Jung carried that truth into psychology. You must descend to ascend. You must go down into your own underworld if you ever wish to rise into your destiny. This is what the modern world fears most: introspection, depth, stillness. Because stillness makes you confront everything you've been avoiding. But stillness is sacred. It is where the psyche speaks. Have you ever wondered why your most profound thoughts come not in noise, but in silence? In the shower, in the night, in solitude. That is the unconscious reaching up like roots toward the surface, desperate to make contact with the light of awareness. But you must listen. You must unplug from the simulation long enough to feel your truth. And that is terrifying, because the moment you stop running, the truth catches up to you. But it also frees you. Carl Jung didn't tell people to chase success. He told them to integrate. He didn't promise happiness. He pointed to individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your true self, not your persona, not your ego, but the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow. Individuation is not about fixing yourself. It is about facing yourself, owning your story, reclaiming the pieces of your soul that you exiled for the sake of fitting in. And that journey begins the moment you decide to stop performing and start becoming. And it is a decision to stop numbing, to stop distracting, to stop playing roles that exhaust your spirit, to descend into your soul like a mythic hero descending into the cave, afraid, alone, uncertain. And still, you go, because something ancient in you knows the treasure is hidden in the dark. This is the rite of passage the modern world has lost. We've created a culture of comfort, and it is killing us. Slowly, quietly, behind perfect smiles and filtered lives, people are unraveling. Why? Because they're living from the outside in. And Jung warned us, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who your parents needed you to be, not who your boss wants you to be, not who society told you to be, but who your soul was always whispering you are. But the soul doesn't shout, it whispers. And in a world addicted to noise, most never hear it. They confuse the static for a signal. They chase applause instead of alignment. They fill their calendars but empty their spirits. And so they drift. Accomplished but disconnected, surrounded but unseen, successful but spiritually starving. Jung saw this coming. He watched as society sprinted toward technological mastery and psychological ignorance. We conquered the external world while abandoning the internal one. We learned to split the atom but forgot how to unify the self. And in that forgetting, we built a culture of fragments, a civilization of masks. We became afraid of depth, of silence, of meaning. So we medicated our emptiness with productivity. We buried our anxiety under to-do lists. We swapped rituals for routines and purpose for performance. But beneath all of it, something sacred still stirs. A hunger, a call. It's the call to remember, not with your mind, but with your soul. To remember who you were before the world told you who to be. To remember that within you is not just a life, but a myth, a story ancient and archetypal, echoing with the voice of every human who ever asked, "Who am I?" Really? That is the question Jung believed could awaken a person. But it requires courage, not the courage to fight the world, but the rarer courage to face yourself. To stand still while your illusions burn, to look into your own eyes without flinching, to admit what you truly feel, not what you're supposed to feel. Because there is no transformation without truth, and no freedom without fire. This is where the modern soul must go, through the flames of its own honesty, through the dismantling of false selves, through the ache of authenticity. Not because it's fashionable, but because it's vital. Because a life lived in denial is a slow death. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That is the greatest warning of all. That what you do not confront within, you will repeat without. The relationships you attract, the cycles you endure, the patterns you swear you're done with, until they return in a new disguise. But this is not damnation, it is direction. The psyche is not punishing you, it's pointing. Every trigger is a trailhead, every breakdown a doorway, every conflict an invitation to integration. You are not cursed, you are being called, and the longer you resist that call, the louder it becomes. The more you project your disowned parts onto others, the more you judge, blame, control. But healing begins the moment you turn that mirror inward, the moment you say, "What if it's not them? What if it's me?" That is not weakness, that is initiation. And so, in our modern world, loud with distraction and brimming with artificial connection, the soul begins to whisper in protest. It stirs in the quiet hours when the phone is down, when the lights are low, when the image you project no longer holds your gaze. In that stillness, something older than time begins to rise, something raw, something real. Jung warned us of this silence. He called it the return of the repressed, the shadow, exiled from your identity, clawing its way back into your consciousness. You can't destroy it. You can't outthink it. You can only face it. And when you do, it will not greet you like a monster. It will meet you like an old friend, long denied. This is not some poetic metaphor. This is the brutal truth of individuation, the process of becoming whole. What makes you untouchable in a world obsessed with control is not how well you conform, but how deeply you know yourself. Know what you're capable of, know what you fear, know the darkness in your nature, and choose day by day to rise above it, not in ignorance of it, but in full awareness. You become invincible not by denying your wounds, but by walking through the fire of them and forging meaning from pain. Because, let's be honest, you don't truly trust someone who's never confronted their own capacity for harm. The person who pretends to be only good is a dangerous illusion. The man or woman who has met their inner beast and made peace with it. That person radiates something far deeper than charm. They radiate truth. Jung believed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Think about that. How many decisions have you made, not from clarity, but compulsion? How many patterns have you repeated, thinking they were destiny, when in truth they were echoes of something you never addressed? Some fear, some unmet need, some hidden belief passed down silently, generation after generation. The modern world has created the perfect storm for unconscious living. Shortcuts over self-awareness, numbing over integration, escape over evolution. We keep scrolling, keep chasing, keep medicating the symptoms, while the soul, the one part of you that can't be fooled, screams in silence. But you still have a choice. Jung never claimed the path would be easy. In fact, he warned it would often look like madness to those still asleep. Because the one who dares to peel back the masks, to dismantle the persona, to walk into the labyrinth of their own psyche, that person threatens the entire illusion society is built upon. You want to know why the world resists the awakened? Because the awakened are uncontrollable. They don't need to be told who they are. They know. They don't beg for acceptance. They embody self-worth. They don't follow blindly. They ask the terrifying questions most run from their whole lives. But here's the paradox. In daring to awaken, You don't become some cold, emotionless ascetic floating above humanity. You become more human than ever. You feel more. You love deeper. You see others not through the veil of ego, but through the eyes of soul. You finally see the war behind their eyes, and you meet it with understanding, not judgment. That is what the modern world needs most. Not more compliance, not more sanitized perfection, but more awakened souls, scarred and radiant, who carry their darkness not as shame, but as wisdom. So don't numb it. Don't run. When your old wounds surface, listen. When your fears creep in, face them. When your dreams call you crazy, walk toward them anyway. Because everything that is real in you, everything that is true, waits beyond the version of yourself you were told to be. And yes, it will hurt. It will strip you down. You will lose people. You will outgrow old roles. You will bury parts of your past and never look back. But what rises from the ashes will be untouchable. Not because you built walls, but because you've burned them. Not because you became perfect, but because you finally stopped pretending. So now the question isn't, what should I do with my life? It's, what part of me must die so that something eternal can be born? This is not the language of self-help. This is the language of rebirth. This is the path Jung laid before you, not paved in certainty, but in symbols, dreams, and silent knowing. It is not a clean path. It is not a safe path. But it is the only one that leads to a life worth living. Because what you're really searching for isn't comfort. It's meaning. And meaning is not handed to you. It is earned in the darkest hours, in the loneliest nights, when you scream into the void and hear only the echo of your own silence. It is earned in the moment you stop performing, when you drop the act, when you meet your own eyes in the mirror and refuse to look away. It is earned when you realize that the world cannot save you, not with its praise, not with its applause, not with its empty affirmations or glossy dreams. Only you can do that. Only the part of you that remembers who you were before you were broken, remembers the dream you buried beneath logic and survival, remembers that the soul never wanted a perfect life. It wanted a real one. And real means everything. It means shadow and light. It means rage and peace. It means the terror of being truly seen and the liberation of being seen anyway. It means walking forward without knowing what you'll become, but knowing you can no longer remain who you were. Carl Jung didn't just leave a philosophy, he left a fire that still burns in every soul brave enough to awaken. It is the fire of individuation, the sacred unraveling, the sacred reconstruction, where all that is false falls away and all that is real begins to rise. So rise from the expectations that never belonged to you. Rise from the persona that kept you safe but never free. Rise from the roles you were assigned by culture, by trauma, by fear, and become the one who writes their own myth. Because this is what it means to be truly untouchable. Not that the world can't wound you, but that you no longer live in fear of wounds. Not that you are above pain, but that pain is no longer your enemy. Not that you are perfect, but that you are whole, and wholeness, in a world addicted to illusion, is the ultimate rebellion. So if you hear the call, don't wait for permission. Burn the mask, face the mirror, step into your shadow, and let your soul finally speak. Because somewhere deep within you, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the programming, there is a voice that has never been silenced. It is not loud, it is not polished, but it is true. And it's been waiting, not for a sign, not for the right moment, but for you to wake up, to return, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be.